Jeffrey. Thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to start off just by introducing myself. Clearly, you can see that either I'm very important or I stole a bunch of these from the front desk. The security is low, so check them out. There are so many cool things that are being talked about today and tomorrow that I thought I'd mix it up a little bit. So instead of talking about stress, instead of talking about our product and so on and so forth, I'll cover that at the end, but I really want to talk about stress and disruption and what's going on in the corporate world, right? And how that's impacting people. So first, do you have anyone in from Mill Valley or up in the Napa or Sonoma area? Yeah, I'm so sorry with what's going on there. I live in Mill Valley, and I flew in late last night from New York, so I got home around 1:30 in the morning and found that we actually have friends of ours living with us for a few days because they've lost their home. And it's devastating what's going on there. I then found that our friends have the kids' rooms. My wife has the kids in our room, and I got the sofa. This morning I got up and we had one of our global clients. We're working with them in 20 countries around the world, and there was a big storm going on around. There was something going on with our technology and our platform and our systems, and it was impacting them. And this went on for a couple of hours, and they were getting pretty fired up about it. And then at the end they said, oh, actually it's our systems, our bad, right? That kind of a thing. At lunch, I went out to the taco truck, and I ordered one of those delicious burrito bowls, and they were out of chicken. So since we're talking about stress and resilience and mindfulness, I thought it would be fun if I just started my session by totally losing my shit. There's a lot going on these days, and we expect people to just sort of go through it, right? So I want to talk about what's going on in the work setting and why it is so important that we help people be resilient, build these skills, right, to actually just function in their day-to-day. So first, let's talk a little bit about culture, right? So within our company, we talk a lot about how can we help the individual live a healthier, happier, more engaged life, and how can we help companies build cultures that employees actually want to be a part of. I was speaking at an event with Burson by Deloitte a couple months ago, and they had a panel of 6 of the top consulting firms in the world, and I posed the question, what percentage of companies that you work with would you say have a toxic culture, right? And they debated for about 10 minutes. Any guesses? 80 to 90%. 80 to 90%, right? So culture is how we treat each other, how decisions are made, right? And it's why employees determine whether or not they're going to stick around or not, right? So I want to invite you to sort of flash back with me. When you were being recruited into your current job, right, what did that interview feel like, right? Just remember how amazing that interview was, right? Oh my God, you're going to love it here. It's amazing. Look at these offices, gorgeous. Pretty spectacular. Our CEO is amazing. We have our mission, vision, and values on the wall. Has anyone shown you the snacks? The snacks are off the hook. You can almost see Bambi like jumping through the forest, like music playing, butterflies going. Everything's going to be perfect. And then you show up on Monday to start the job. They're like, hey, welcome back. We forgot to tell you, part of your job description is we're dealing with transformation, digitization, innovation, globalization. We're actually dealing with all of the Asians, right? That leads to frustration, speculation, and sometimes stagnation, right? And we're out of snacks. So we ask employees, the norm of today is constant change, right? But the expectation is to show up and deal with it. And that's hard. So in the corporate world, what we have is organizations turning into like faster, cheaper machines, right? It's how we work. This is the culture. So we've got procurement, cutting costs, 10 to 15% a year, right? What do we tell employees? What's our most important asset? You guys are. We love you. You're our most important asset. 93% of Fortune 500 companies say a top 3 priority is offshoring to reduce costs. Okay? So we have these ongoing conflicting messages. You guys are, we love you. Oh my gosh. There's cheaper people elsewhere. Right? So it's creating stress, and companies are leaving this stress unaddressed. Those conflicting messages are growing now with all of these amazing things. Like, oh my God, we love you guys. Have you seen what's going on with robotics? It's incredible what robots can do faster than you. It's amazing. This picture is of one of the dozens of hotel chains in Tokyo that have replaced desk staff with robots. So you can check in with this beautiful robot on the left. You can check in with that T-Rex robot on the right. Or, not shown on this side, you can check in with the Hello Kitty robot. Super cute. Oh my gosh. Super, super cute. We used to think about robots as like big machine arms that would build cars, right? Automotive stuff like that. But now, robots are kind of changing, right? So we've got drones that are going to go from delivering our packages to delivering our persons. We have self-driving trucks that have rapidly gone to self-driving cars. 2 weeks ago, Ford announced a partnership with Domino's. Did anyone see this? For self-driving cars to deliver your pizza. Not to be outdone, the next day, Papa John's announced their new pizza portal robot. You text the robot, it makes the pizza, puts it in a little safe, and then you put your code in and it slides it out to you when you get there. So when you're talking about in the workforce, like all this robotics and artificial intelligence stuff is kind of generic, right? But when you start messing with people's pizza, oh my God, shit just got real. So employees are worried about like what's going on, and no one's talking to them about what it is that's going on. How many companies here have 4 generations working together for the first time ever? Within your company, 4 generations working together, right? So what have we learned? They hate each other, right? Some boomers are like, that's not very nice. And millennials are like, no, totally. Totally. Oh my God. Right? On one end, you've got millennials showing up like, what's up with office hours? And who created all this mess to begin with? And then on the other end, you have the walking retired, right? I can't afford to leave yet. And it's happening more and more. You can't get 4 generations of family members together for Thanksgiving without all hell breaking loose. We're putting tens of thousands of people together in companies and saying, like, figure it out. Except they're not, right? We're tribal. We're breaking into us versus them. Right now it's millennials versus boomers, right? 16 months ago, millennials took over as the number 1 group in the workforce, right? They also happen to be the number 1 most stressed. So people need help, companies need help, and it's not going well for cultures. Let's do a little survey here. Just how many people are suffering from sleep issues, insomnia, back pain, stress, annoying coworkers? Totally not nice to point. It's just like... This is the norm, right? And the more we suffer from these things, the less we're able to perform at work, right? For those of us that suffer from sleep issues, what happens when you go to sleep? It's hard to focus. You're not much fun to be around. It takes you longer to make a decision, right? If you're dealing with back pain, you're just plain mean. If a third of your culture, a third of your organization is going through this, this becomes part of the culture. We don't take care of ourselves. We don't treat each other very well, right? So more and more companies are suffering from this. Then you have this thing called life. Before employees even get to work, right? What are they dealing with? Global warming. Have you guys noticed it's getting hot out there for a pimp? There's one person that heard of that rap song ever. Thank you so much. I appreciate the pity laugh. We've got global warming. We have more natural catastrophes, right? In the past several weeks, we have tens of thousands of families displaced. We have terrorism. How many people have children? All right, so domestic terrorism. I know, that's messed up, right? It's totally messed up. And then we have politics. There are some countries on this planet where you have madmen and their incompetent family members running government. Thank God that's not happening in the United States of America. We have data hacking. Thanks to Equifax, 143 million Americans have their identity at risk for their entire lifetime, right? So that the undercurrent of what's stressful in your life is getting higher and higher before people even show up to work, right? And so when we talk about these skills around resilience and mindfulness and emotional intelligence, these skills to be able to calm and focus the mind, relax the central nervous system, be grounded, be kind and compassionate, it is so important, the work that so many of us are doing here in this trans tech community. I'm honored to be part of it. But it's critical. We have this $300 billion a year problem in the US economy called stress. And for companies, that shows up as decreasing productivity, increasing absenteeism, increasing turnover, increasing healthcare costs, right? But when you think about the human element, how does it show up for the individual? This company doesn't treat us very well. My boss doesn't pay attention to me. I don't feel respected and honored here, right? So what happens? People leave. They go down the road to the next company, and what do they find? Same stuff. Same stuff. Welcome! Transformation, innovation, digitization. It's hard. So the way this is showing up according to the American Psychological Association, when you think about like what's stressing people out, pretty much everything, right? It's mental well-being, financial well-being, social well-being, sleep, rest, work, physical, like all of this is wearing us out. And this is how we're showing up to work every day, right? And it's causing problems in every single vertical. So what we do at Whil is map to specific clinically validated approaches to cover these off, to help people get more out of life. And it's important we do that. 83% of people report work as their biggest source of stress. 50% of people say that their stress is high to overwhelming. 91% of work accidents are due to human error, meaning people don't focus and bad things happen. It's hurting business. The average turnover rate in the US last year, 47%. So a lot of businesses thinking, no way. If there's anybody in retail in here, they're thinking, I wish 47% would be awesome. It's 70% or more in most retail. 42% of employees say they leave work because of stress. How many companies here have an issue with safety in your business? Safety, right? If you have more than a couple hundred employees, you have an issue with safety. I guarantee it. Safety is a crisis. You may be familiar with this research from Harvard saying the average person spends about half their time with the mind wandering. Worrying about the future, worrying about the past, regret, anxiety, is my boss out to get me, everything except what's happening in the moment, right? It's no surprise 91% of work accidents are due to human error. People can't focus, bad things happen, right? The way this is showing up is more people being injured or killed every year on the job. Now, for businesses, every single vertical has a crisis in that you can look industry by industry. How many people get hurt every year, right? Anybody work in healthcare or hospitals here? A couple? So 8.7 out of every 100 people are injured in hospitals every year, primarily nurses. 8.7%. The national average is 3.2%. And you might think, well, 3.2% is not so bad. The problem is the average cost of every industry is $38,000, direct cost. Medical cost, legal, that's it. Indirect costs are about 3 times higher. So if you're in hospital, and our friends in the hospital industry, you're in like a 5 to 10% margin business if you're lucky. For every 100 employees, you have to earn $3 million in revenue so that by the time you get to the bottom line, you can cover injury costs for your own employees. The average hospital loses 68% of their bottom line due to healthcare costs for their own employees, right? You can find your industry here. right? The same thing plays across every vertical. This is a crisis, injury rates, and worse, across every single vertical. Now, when we think about all this stress, first off, I apologize for stressing you guys out. I feel really bad about it. It's almost like later I'm going to talk about a product that might help. You think it's bad now, like these bad boys are getting better twice a year. Has anyone seen the new iPhone 10? The iPhone 10 has an API to mainline stress directly into your prefrontal cortex. It's unreal. I can't wait to get it. The problem is the human brain hasn't changed much in about 3,000 years, right? So we're not equipped to deal with the pace of modern living. We just say to employees, we know your stress levels are rising. We know that business is changing. Get in there, figure it out. But they're not figuring it out. When you look at what's happening with people reporting extreme stress, meaning I can't cope with my life, research from the American Psychological Association said it jumped almost 40% in 2 years, right? So a quarter of all people saying, I can't cope. If this is left unchecked in the next 15 years, and it's expected to be, imagine half the people you know can't cope. Half the people I already know can't cope. These numbers are before the last election. It's just a fact. I didn't mean anything by that. When you peel the onion and you think, well, what is it that's stressing people out? Across every major category, people feeling clinically depressed, sad. She's holding up a sign and saying, so that's either you have 5 minutes or high fives, you're killing it. Oh, it's 5 minutes? Okay, sorry. Thank you. So people feeling clinically depressed, anxious, sad, constantly worrying, all up 40%. In this research, the only thing that stayed steady is anger. 42% of people just as angry as they've always been. Right? I actually want to be there when they do that study. Are you still pissed off? Totally. Okay. There's another one. Hasn't changed much. So this is a problem, and there's what's been happening in corporate wellness, there's a lot of gamification, a lot of points and reward program, fill out your health risk assessment, get your Fitbit, get points, right? The problem is these are passive solutions. We're not teaching people life skills that they can take in and transform their own well-being. And that's really what we're focused on. So when we think about resilience and mindfulness training, there's a reason it's so popular in the world. It's on the cover of every major magazine. There's a new book coming out every other week. Every major sports team is using mindfulness as a competitive advantage to help athletes focus under pressure, right? Does that sound familiar? It's what we want. It's what we're looking for our employees, right? But we're not equipping them. One of the other reasons it's of such interest, like clients like ours, Aetna, Intuit, General Electric, Havas, et cetera, some of the world's largest companies, bringing mindfulness in, right? One, to take care of employees, but two, they got to compete. People have to be able to perform. It's table stakes, right? And so we're looking at how do we balance that? How do we give people the skills to get more out of life and actually be resilient, not just cope with what's going on, but be resilient in the process? The research in this space is off the charts over the past several years. We're in 5 clinical trials this year with Whil's products. And what we're focused on is how can we recognize what's going on with the individual and then serve up the right programs in the moment. Okay? So you have health risk assessments, claims data, biometrics, your wearable. For most companies, that data sits on a shelf. For the individual, if my back hurts, I need a program to help me with that. If I can't sleep, what can you do to help me with that? If I'm stressed, anxious, depressed, do you have programs that can help me with that? Right? And so data is getting to the point now where we can recognize that sometimes even before the employee themselves know and offer that help up, and then track what's going on to see how outcomes are changing. And that's what we're focused on. That's what we find so interesting about this space, right? So we're talking about mindfulness and emotional intelligence and resiliency skills. This is not about just meditation, right? If you go into 1,000 people and you say, who wants to meditate? Crickets. Who wants mindfulness? Couple of hands, right? Who wants to deal with back pain, stress, anxiety, right? Who needs to lower their blood pressure? Who needs help sleeping? So we're going to talk to people about Small, bite-sized micro training programs to actually help them get more out of life. Learn this, apply it now. Learn this, apply it now. So that's what we're focused on here. I think you guys have a pretty good understanding of mindfulness. This is a very experienced audience, so I'm going to skip through this and just say, we expect people to show up like this, right? Calm, cool, collected, they can manage anything. But after 10, 20, 30 years of constant change, the norm, disruption, right? What happens? Who do I have to take out today? You show up like this, and it destroys people's health. This guy had terrible asthma. So the reason that we've created digital training programs is this. In my background, I grew up in Pittsburgh. I'm the youngest of 6. Our father was an unemployable alcoholic. So I grew up with that fight or flight trigger constantly going, and I want to fight, right? I'm better than this. I'm going to get out of this. So I did that going into college, into Price Waterhouse, where I love the up-out mentality. Fast forward 20 years. 2 herniated discs in my back, 70% travel, 12 to 14-hour work days. That was the norm. So I hit 40, and my childhood caught up to me. I lost an older sister to drugs. 1 year later, my twin sister took her own life, also a long-term addict. So I'm the global CEO of a 50,000-person company, not equipped to deal with my own well-being, never having learned the tools to be resilient through stress, but learning all kinds of tools to beat people and win, which is not good for culture. So what we do at Whil is help people overcome this, right? Every day on the way to and from the Death Star can be pretty lonely. You guys know what I'm talking about. So we've got programs covering mental well-being, performance, relationships, sleep, career, and health, right? All aspects. This is not just mindfulness. This is how do you get the most out of life with bite-sized, repeatable, learnable skills that you can apply in all aspects of your life. If you guys would like to, everything we do maps to science, and I'll leave you with one thing. All the science out there around how it's helping people physically and mentally is pretty amazing, right? One of my favorite studies is how mindfulness practices, resilience practices help reduce aging at the cellular level, right? So the scientists in the room are like, totally, and some of you are skeptical, but I'll prove it to you. How many people are in touch with people on Facebook you haven't seen since high school? Okay, so what happens? Sometimes you're like, oh my God, you look amazing. And sometimes you're like, oh my God. That's stress, that's aging, right? We're burning people out. If you guys would like to check out our programs, thank you to the event. Thanks to Nicole and Jeffrey. You get our products for free. It's a mixture of video and audio training. Most people do it on a phone. You can take a picture of the next screen. We work with 115 of the largest companies out there. We integrate with everyone. So it's all based around that data sharing. How can we get the right thing to the employee at the right time? We have 4 different training collections, one for well-being, well-being, mindfulness, and sleep, called Thrive, one for emotional intelligence and career skills. This is the famous Search Inside Yourself program that was created at Google, and a yoga program. And then we have one separate program for teenagers. We're in 5 universities and 8 school systems with that. So download it, check it out. We hope you enjoy it, and let us know what you think. And thanks again to Transtech for putting this community together and for what all of you are doing. I feel good about our chances with a community like this. Thank you.